Hi, I'm Simon and welcome to my cupboard. There's debate among Fall fans about which is their best or worst cover version, and I decided that someone, i.e. me, needed to just storm in there and sort it all out, once and for all. Fall cover versions are often seen as things to be endured, an expression of Mark Smith's anxiety that neither band nor audience should be allowed to enjoy themselves too much or for too long. Does that really hold true though, when you survey the mass of them? It'll be interesting to see how far down this rocky mountainside we have to climb before we reach the tree line. When we do, you'll hear this sound. Mark had this to say about his approach to cover versions. I decide on the song. I think it's a waste of time doing a cover version if 1, it's not timely or topical, and 2, if it sounds the same. I like to embellish everything in a cover, a few more lyrics, different arrangements. It's worth saying up front that with the Fall, the line between what's a cover and what isn't is often blurred. There's a level of sales beneath which music publishers don't bother to cry plagiarism, and the Fall stayed safely beneath it for their entire existence. They stole tunes with practical impunity. Is Greenway a cover? Is Athlete cured? The former is treated as a cover with new lyrics, whereas the latter is seen as a Fall original with a riff stolen from Spinal Tap. The decision about what to include here may therefore contain trace amounts of arbitrariness. Sufferers of allergies have been warned. Also, for simplicity, we're only doing studio recordings or radio sessions. The variance in audio quality among live recordings would only complicate the whole ranking procedure. And so, with no further ado, besides a quick nod to the fact that ranking music is pointless, let's get to it. The Fall's worst ever cover is The City Never Sleeps by Nancy Sinatra. It's interesting the number of guest vocals on Fall records by people who are obviously not practiced singers. It does make sense though when your main vocalist breaks so many rules about what good singing even is. If you can't see the attraction of seemingly clumsy attempts at expression, you might not be listening to the Fall in the first place. But Mark's vocal clumsiness was exaggerated, and it also had huge confidence and charisma behind it, whereas the people he press-ganged into guest turns at the mic often sound bewildered. That can be effective too, the sound of someone in the hot seat struggling but giving it their best shot. There's something compelling about that. That said, this track stinks. A plodding version of a boring song sung by Lucy Rimmer, who was working for the Fall and dating Mark at the time. That's not to single her out though. Nobody is doing their best work on this. Cock in My Pocket by the Stooges. This was released as Stout Man and has terrible new lyrics from Mark. He growls obnoxiously about a big fat man pushing a little pram whose brain he threatens to shit in. He's got nothing to say, in other words, so he's dicking about. Aging lyricists sometimes seem to burn themselves out on wordsmithery and get seduced by crudity. Morrissey was showing signs of the same thing last time I bothered to listen to him. But Iggy Pop's original words have these beaten for both crudity and conviction. Musically, the original is kind of a rootsy thrash, but without the jive piano, it just becomes off-brand punk. Jungle Rock by Hank Mizell. This one's a nod to the band's direction at the time, being taken from 1997's Levitate. Jungle Rock. Get it? I'm no great friend of the 12-bar, but the rock and roll original of this almost sounds progressive after years of living with the Fall's cloddish one-chord reduction, which sounds as if it's tripping over its own breakbeats. The riff is distinctly unlit, the surf guitar apathetic. Mark, when asked at the time if his recent cover of Jungle Rock was any good, admitted it's not that great, no, sorry. Oh How to Do Now, The Monks. Renamed Black Monk Theme 2, it makes sense that this was recorded together with another Monks song, I Hate You, as the two are a pair. On both, the singer gets trapped in the obsessive repetition of words, but one is a love song and the other a love song disguised as a diss track, a love song in denial. Mark was apparently getting bricks out of his system at the time, and naturally does better with the hate side of this coin. This track, with its vacant backing vocals and MIDI hand claps, is the least of the Fall's 4 Monks covers. To be fair, the original isn't so hot either. Houston by Dean Martin. There's little bad to say about this one on paper. It's well produced and performed. Dean Martin's croon addiction in the original makes it sound to English ears like he's saying Euston, which is where you get the train from London back to Manchester. To Mark, as his life in the music biz ground onwards, it must have come to sound like a homeward bound for homesick Prestwichians. This version, though, just trundles along and not very much happens. The original has a key change midway through to relieve the boredom. They should have kept it in. Say Mama by Gene Vincent. Mark loved his first wave rock and roll, a passion I do not share. Also, the final lineup couldn't sound rootsy to save their lives. Maybe Mark agreed because after a minute of this, they're interrupted by a live recording of the Fall's 1989 lineup doing Race with the Devil. That isn't great either, but the earlier band sounds arrestingly loose and frisky by comparison. I like to imagine that edit was done to troll his current band, to show them how it should be done. The Legend of Xanadu, Dave D, Dozy, Beaky, Mick and Titch. I never even used to notice this tune, tucked away in the Code Selfish bonus tracks. It was just that dull zippy one with the weird noise on it. Then I checked out the original. Turns out that noise is actually a fairly decent impression of the whip sound effect this song is most remembered for. Enough traces of the tune survive to make this kind of decent, but all of the eccentricity and drama has been ironed out of it. Rollin' Danny by Gene Vincent. I am just not a fan of 12 bars, or of rockabilly. Not to say there aren't exceptions, where the genre rises above the usual, and this track, the first cover version the Fall ever committed to record, was done by one of the most musically charismatic lineups the band ever had. They do nothing with it though. It's similar to Houston in its unexciting competence, it just plods predictably along. It edges that track only by being slightly faster and slightly shorter. That brings us to the end of part 1. Thanks for watching. New episodes will appear on this channel at 5 PM every Friday. Part 2 of this rundown will be published on December 16th, but you can see it right now if you sign up to the £4 per month tier on Patreon, which will also guarantee your place in heaven, as long as you click like and subscribe too. Until next time.